In cryptocurrency, ownership is not defined by a name or an account. Ownership is defined by control. Specifically, by who controls the private keys. The blockchain does not recognize identity. It recognizes cryptographic authorization. Whoever controls the private key controls the funds. This concept is fundamental. Because financial crime risk, responsibility, and liability all follow control. Before examining wallets and custody models, it is essential to understand this principle. In crypto, control equals ownership. Cryptocurrency wallets operate using two cryptographic keys: a public key and a private key. The public key functions as an address. It can be shared openly. It allows others to send funds. The private key functions as authorization. It allows funds to be moved. The private key must remain secret. If a private key is lost, access to the funds is permanently lost. If a private key is compromised, the funds can be stolen with no recovery mechanism. There is no central authority that can reverse transactions. This makes key protection one of the most critical security and compliance challenges in the crypto ecosystem. In a custodial wallet model, a third party controls the private keys on behalf of the user. This third party is typically a centralized exchange or a financial service provider. From a compliance perspective, custodial wallets resemble traditional finance. The institution acts as an intermediary. It applies customer identification procedures. It monitors transactions. And it is subject to anti-money laundering obligations. Because the institution controls the keys, regulators expect strong oversight and internal controls. However, custodial control ends when funds are withdrawn to an external wallet. This transition point represents a significant increase in risk. In a non-custodial wallet model, the user controls their own private keys. There is no intermediary. There is no recovery mechanism. And there is no centralized oversight. From a compliance perspective, this often marks the boundary of the regulated perimeter. Funds can move freely between wallets without institutional approval. While this supports decentralization, it also introduces increased financial crime risk. Compliance teams must assume reduced visibility and reduced control. Understanding this boundary is essential for risk assessment and transaction monitoring strategies. Cryptocurrency transactions are irreversible. Once funds are moved, they cannot be recalled. This creates unique challenges when keys are compromised. Theft can occur through phishing, malware, social engineering, or poor key management practices. Unlike traditional banking fraud, there is often no chargeback and no recovery. For compliance teams, this means prevention is more important than remediation. Strong controls, monitoring of abnormal behavior, and customer education are critical risk mitigants. From a practical perspective, wallet and custody risk can be identified through key indicators. These include frequent withdrawals to newly created wallets, transfers to unhosted wallets with no clear business purpose, rapid movement of funds across multiple addresses, and interaction with high-risk services such as mixers or unregulated platforms. These indicators do not confirm illicit activity, but they require enhanced scrutiny. Effective compliance relies on understanding how technical behavior translates into risk. So, after covering wallets, keys, and custody risk, a fundamental question naturally comes up. In traditional finance, ownership is linked to identity. Your name is attached to an account. In cryptocurrency, ownership is not linked to identity. It is linked to control. Whoever controls the private key can move the funds. And the network accepts that as ownership. The blockchain does not know who you are. It only verifies cryptographic authority. This is why control is central to risk, responsibility, and financial crime analysis in crypto. After understanding how ownership works in cryptocurrency, another question naturally follows. If there are no names on the blockchain, is cryptocurrency anonymous? At first glance, it may seem that way. Wallet addresses do not contain names, documents, or personal information. However, this does not make cryptocurrency anonymous. It makes it pseudonymous. A wallet address acts as a persistent identifier. Even though it is not a name, it remains visible and consistent over time. Every transaction made by that address is public. It is permanently recorded on the blockchain. And it can be traced forward and backward. Unlike cash, which leaves no trail, cryptocurrency creates a complete transaction history. The challenge in crypto is not visibility. It is attribution. Connecting an address to a real person often happens later, not immediately. And once that connection is made, the entire transaction history becomes meaningful. This is why cryptocurrency is not anonymous. It simply separates activity from identity until they are eventually linked. After understanding how ownership and pseudonymity work in cryptocurrency, another key question comes up. If the blockchain has no identity layer, where does KYC actually happen? KYC does not happen on the blockchain itself. The blockchain was not designed to identify people. It was designed to verify transactions. Identity is introduced outside the blockchain, at regulated access points. These access points include centralized exchanges, custodial platforms, brokers, and fiat on-ramps and off-ramps. When a person buys cryptocurrency with fiat money, sells crypto back to fiat, or uses a custodial service, KYC is performed. At that moment, a real-world identity becomes linked to one or more wallet addresses. From that point forward, blockchain activity can be analyzed in connection with that identity. This is why decentralization does not eliminate KYC. It changes where KYC is applied. In cryptocurrency, identity is not embedded in the protocol. It is enforced at the points where crypto meets the regulated financial system. After KYC is performed at a regulated platform, another important question follows. What happens when cryptocurrency leaves a regulated environment? When funds are withdrawn from a custodial platform to a non-custodial wallet, they often exit the regulated perimeter. This does not mean that AML stops. It means that direct control and visibility change. The regulated institution no longer controls the private keys. And it no longer has the same ability to apply preventive controls. However, the transaction itself does not disappear. Every transfer remains recorded on the blockchain. The transaction history stays public and traceable. From a financial crime perspective, this moment represents a risk transition. Risk does not vanish when funds move to a private wallet. It shifts. And understanding where that shift happens is essential for effective AML monitoring and risk assessment in cryptocurrency. After understanding how identity enters the system and how risk shifts beyond regulated platforms, one final question often remains. If wallet addresses have no names, how do investigations actually work? Investigators do not rely on names stored on the blockchain. They rely on behavior. Wallet addresses leave patterns. They interact with other addresses. They follow consistent transaction behaviors over time. Using blockchain analytics, related addresses can be grouped together based on how they transact. This process is known as clustering. These clusters are then linked to known entities through regulated services, exchanges, or previous investigations. Often, identity appears after the activity has already taken place. When a wallet eventually interacts with a regulated platform, or a known service, attribution becomes possible. This is why cryptocurrency investigations are often delayed, but still effective.